I have to confess, I really do not like email, and I almost kind of hate texting. Yeah, I do it, but I don't like it. Not at all. Because there are so many better and other ways to communicate that are true communication. And I prefer that much more. And let me ask you a question that really startled me, maybe even shocked me, but didn't surprise me. How do you like it when people listen to you for 11 seconds? That's right. How do you feel when people listen to you for 11 seconds? Well, that's some of the stuff we need to talk about because all of that affects you, my friend entrepreneur. We're here to help you as you follow Jesus to be able to build a life of purpose and meaning, a great business, and expand your brand throughout the territory. We can help you do that, and that's why you're going to take, hopefully, about 12 to 20 minutes for the Jesus Entrepreneur Experience from the Christian Entrepreneur Network, and it begins right now. Well, once again, hi, this is Stan, and it's Wednesday, and generally on Wednesday, I really want to kind of lower the pace just a bit now. Some of you might know that I'm very intentional that way of keeping the energy up. One of the principles I teach people is it all comes down to energy. If you want to be successful, one of the states of being that you have to cultivate, and by the way, there's 7 of them, and we'll be teaching you that on the Christian Entrepreneur Network, you must have energy. You must have personal intensity. Monday, we kind of rock and roll. We gotta get you going. We gotta keep it moving. Tuesday, we have a little bit of trivia, a little bit of silliness from time to time just to keep the energy, keep the smiling going. And if you know from yesterday, we covered a whole lot of stuff. We kept it moving. Wednesday, we're going to slow it down slightly because it is Wednesday where you're thinking about how you're going to finish the week, and I want to just give you something thoughtful. Thursday, in effect, we want to be, get ready for the finish and get ready for the weekend. And then Friday or Saturday, perhaps a little more reflective, maybe even a little bit deeper stuff. So in the way I plan my communication, it is all very intentional as to the context. And I think about that because a Friday program is very different from a Monday program. A Tuesday program should probably be far different than a Sunday afternoon program. Those are all kinds of things you have to learn when you are a radio, television, performer, broadcaster, teacher, speaker, entrepreneur. Well, let's with that in mind, let's kind of get into the things for this Wednesday and slow it down, but hopefully a little bit thoughtful for you too. Here's what happened. I read an article by Study Finds. It calls SF Research Studies First. StudyFinds.org. And here was one that just came out this week. It says this: doctors give patients 11 seconds to explain reason for visit before interrupting. May I say that again? Doctors give patients 11 seconds to explain reason for visit before interrupting. Just let that statement, as I say, sit on your head for a while. Now, a little bit back to texting and email. First of all, I'm just very honest about this. I'm a poor typist. I mean, I took typing in high school, and I've done a lot of work, but I never became really good at it. I can do okay. Sure, I can do fine. I do a lot of typing, but I don't like it, and I'm not very good at it. Now, my good friend Bob Ketcherson, he and I did radio together for many, many years, particularly in missionary broadcasting. And before Bob joined me, Bob was one of the news directors for WSB in Atlanta. It was a big radio station. And Bob was a news guy. And Bob, this was the old-fashioned time. Bob would type up the news so fast and go into the studio and read it. Bob could type as fast as I could talk. I mean that. I would come in and I'd say, would you type this up? And I would just talk, put something in my own words, and Bob could type it almost as per dictation. He was that good at it, and it was almost perfect. I was never close to that. So I'm very honest. I just don't like to type or text. And if you see some of my stuff, I get a bit dyslexic in my fingers, and so the typos come in, and if I don't catch them, then I look stupid. I just don't like it. As I say, when I talk, you can't see any of my typos. Now, do you see why I don't like email and texting? But there's a bigger reason for it, and that is that I believe if it's important, it needs to be heard. Faith comes by hearing. Action and motivation come by hearing. It is actually the sound in the brain that leads people to more action. Maybe sometimes less reflection, but if you want action, they need to hear it. And that's kind of what I'm about. So I read a lot, of course. I type as little as I can. And what is nice now is that my iPhone has gotten to the point that it is so used to the way I talk that primarily when I dictate an email on my iPhone or I dictate an email on the text, it is almost word perfect. It is incredible. I mean it. The technology is now incredible. It's almost perfect just because the machinery in my little 5S, it's an old one, can dictate perfectly. So now almost all of my texts and all of my emails are ones that I have been able to dictate. I still don't like it. And it happened for another reason. I had sent an email on a business matter to a woman, and then that required that I call back. And I could sense there was a little bit of edge in the conversation. Well, it turned out that what I had typed, I meant as a promise to perform. She kind of viewed it as a threat as to what I would do. She got the entire meaning wrong, but I could see in the words she could have read that into it because she was almost expecting a little bit of a confrontational relationship. But if she heard me, she would have never gotten that meaning. I mean, that's just not me. I don't come across that way when I talk. And so what happened was that because we had an email, still well written, nothing wrong with it, it just did not have the full meaning of the person, the personality, the energy, the intention, the tone of voice, all of those things that go into communication. And so oftentimes I simply say, an email and a text are for information only. They are not for a conversation or a communication. If you want to communicate, if you want to have a conversation, put the text and the typer down and pick up the phone. P-U-T-P. Pick up the phone. Just let that sit on your head for a while, okay? Pick up the phone. I hope that has been helpful. It's something that you need to know about being an entrepreneur. And of course, that leads to our little lesson about the doctors. And that's next. article. Like I said, doctors give patients 11 seconds to explain reason for visit before interrupting. And here's how the article goes. Gainesville, Florida. Ever feel like your doctor is in a rush to get you out of the door when you come in for a visit? You're not just imagining things. A new study finds physicians give a patient an average of just 11 seconds to describe their issue before cutting them off. Researchers from the University of Florida determined that for all the waiting we do after we arrive at a medical practitioner's office, it's the doctors who seem to have the least amount of patience. The study showed that just a third of physicians give patients adequate time to explain why they're there. Our results suggest that we are far from achieving patient-centered care, says the study co-author Nankay Singh Ospina, adding that medical specialists prove to be the biggest hurry compared to primary care physicians. I've shared this with a number of my doctor friends who I really know are patient care. And they shook their head and they said, "Oh, Stan, that is so right." In fact, I'm working with a doctor. I'm helping him take his book and turning it into a podcast like this so that it can be heard, because it's so good. You just can't read it. You have to experience it. You have to perform it. And it's about how the early doctors, medical missionaries in Africa, did their deal. And that for hundreds of years, the primary way that doctors spent time making things work for their patients was by listening. And we have discovered that there is great power, medical healing power, in allowing people to talk, to visit, to be fully listened to. Now let me ask you this question. Have you ever had the experience of being fully listened to for a long time? I'm going to toot my own horn, but one time I got a recommendation from one of my better clients, my coaching clients, and I went to the person who had been recommended and had agreed to see me, and I just simply said, "Oh, I'm very glad that they gave you my recommendation. I'm very happy. They're one of my best clients, and I really appreciate them. We're not only client and customer, we're client and best friends." And she said, do you know what she said? She said, "Stan will listen to you like you've never been listened to before." And I was flattered. But I'm very intentional because I'm just full of it. I have lots of things I want to know and a lot to say. And so I have developed, as hard as I can, just simply staying put. And then oftentimes saying, "Tell me more. What happened then? How did you feel about that?" Always, before I do anything in my pitch, and I've got the pitch, I've got a pitch and sale just like you do, I just simply say, "Tell me your story. How in the world did you get to hear about me? What are you hoping that I might be able to do for you?" I oftentimes will teach this principal rule, and I want you to see a picture of it right now. All right? By the way, this is one of the best ways for you to get it, and that's for me to talk and tell you a story or give you a story that will create a picture. I want you now to imagine that everybody that you see around the office today is wearing a sign. That's right, it's a big sign. It's actually 2 feet by 2 feet. That's right, 24 by 24, so it's a big sign, and they have it around their neck just like their employee tag, except that it's not 3 inches by 3 inches. It's 24 inches by 24 inches. And you flip that sign around, and here's what it says. please tell me I'm important. Everybody is wearing a sign that says, please tell me I am important. Just do that then. That's what they want. They're telling you what they really want. No matter what they're there for or what you're there for, you come together. What they really want, deep in the bottom of their heart, mind, and spirit, and maybe even their soul, they want to be felt that they are important. Jesus comes to us and says, you were really important. Do you know what, Stan Houston? If you were the only one in the entire history of creation who had ever fallen short of God's glory, everybody else got it good. But you, born in 1945 in Chicago, Illinois, you messed up. And I still would have said to the Father and the Holy Spirit, I have to go down, and I have to do the deal, and I'll have to die for Stan. And he would have done that. And he would have done it for you. That's how important you are. And if we are truly trying to be imitators of Jesus, we will read the sign that says, please tell me I'm important. And you see, what happens is that when the doctor listens to us, when anyone listens to us, that is a very wonderful way to say, you are important. Sound is important. It just doesn't come across the same way as a text or an email. If it's important, it needs to be heard. It needs to have a spoken word. Not just the word, a spoken word, a living word, a motivating word, a comforting word, an encouraging word, sometimes a challenging and confronting word. And that's why I oftentimes tell you, that's why you better learn something important. You better learn that you don't need an MBA, you need something else. And that's what I'll finish on. Again, I love the sound of that little musical segue. MBA. Mostly bad advice if you're an entrepreneur. I really mean that. Mostly bad advice. Don't get an MBA. If you want to get a corporate job, maybe and rise to the top, they may want you to get your ticket punched and prove to them that you've got an MBA. That doesn't mean you know anything or if you learned anything. Sometimes it just means that you've simply completed the course. But what you really need is what I call an MSE, a Master of Self-Expression. You need to learn how to communicate yourself. You need to communicate so that you can sell. You need to communicate so that people will understand you and trust you. And nobody trusts an email. Nobody trusts a text. And so that's why I want you to have a studio right now in your office. Start to build your studio so you can communicate and get better at self-expression, of being able to live and communicate by the sound of your voice and the energy and personality behind it. And because of that, you're going to need a little bit of a studio. And I'm going to start teaching you how to do communication by the media. Radio, that's kind of audio. Video, which is radio with pictures. And then how to be a performer. And that is, it is communication by radio, voice, video, person, and then in person. That's what you need to know. I'm Stan Houston. I can help you. I can help you. I can help you. I want to help you. You can reach me at radioedge77@gmail.com, radioedge77@gmail.com. I would love to come into your life and in your business and help you learn and put into practice some of these things that will make you and Jesus smile, because you will land up treating other people as if they are, and because they are, the most important people in the world. I appreciate you. You are important to me. God bless you and keep you. Bye for now.